name is Adrian Castillo. I am a fourth-year PhD student at Dr. Karin Limburg's lab at SUNY ESF. My field of expertise is sort of niche. It's to do with the accreting structures of marine organisms and how they sort of grow over time, and more specifically how they incorporate different trace elements into their structures as they grow. For example, coral, fish, otoliths will grow over time and incorporate these different trace elements into their structures, and that can be used as a proxy for what kind of environment they might be exposed to over their lifetime. So this cruise was to go out to this canyon and to get an idea of the various deep sea corals that exist throughout the canyon and get an idea of how much is there, how vulnerable they are, and really just what's down there. It really started out with me just emailing someone at NOAA asking them about getting some samples. That's sort of what forged that sort of connection with NOAA. If we can get an idea of all the various animals that might be living, all the different coral habitats there, we can sort of model where the coral are. For my research specifically, I was more interested in just getting samples for my own work. I am looking at the trace elements found within these corals to sort of get an idea of what kind of environments they might have been exposed to, given that these deep sea regions, we don't know anything about them. And we may have changed the ocean drastically by the time we've even come to really realize that they exist. Given that these corals can live for centuries, we can create sort of an idea of what an environment might have been prior to us drastically changing it. I'm looking at signals of anthropogenic pollution, things like lead, zinc, etc., that might be indicative of that. This work is important because it is a way that we can get data about the deep sea environment. It's a way for us to squeeze out as much data as we can from the samples that we can get from the deep sea, given that it takes a lot of money, time, effort, people to make a trip like this happen. To be able to reconstruct different environments of the deep sea would be a major sort of methodology for getting to know things about it, given that we know very little. I think I first met my advisor before I heard of ESF, actually. I had known for almost 2 years prior to coming here because I was working on my master's, and I would like send her an email saying, oh, I'm working on this, I'm doing this, and she was very helpful. That's sort of where I first started to get to know Karin, and from there I sort of dug a little bit more about the university she was at. I was working on my project that was very sort of similar to the types of analyses that she does, and looking at potential spaces for a PhD. I just knew her, I knew she was pretty responsive for emails and things like that, and she was just overall very, very sort of helpful. So when it came time for me to do my PhD, she was definitely someone I wanted to talk to, and I think having a larger conversation with her about what I sort of wanted to go with my it's sort of hard because I don't think I really had my project planned out at the time. And I think at the time I actually thought I was going to be working with fish. Prior to all that, I think just like knowing that I'd have an advisor that would be in my corner was like a big enough sell for me. What I love about ESF is like, I think when I'm not on campus or I'm not at ESF, I almost feel as though I have to sort of explain why I'm interested in things I'm interested in. Whereas at ESF, there's like a sort of understanding. It's already mutually understood sort of where our baseline's at in terms of how we view the world and how we view nature. Like everyone's so wonderfully weird here at ESF. You know, like it is a school where any of your niche interests are so like well entertained and well understood without like any sort of questions. There's like a lack of need to sort of explain, which I really appreciate about this place. Scientists and people with the minds like us are only going to be increasingly more valuable. These issues that we're facing, while they seem very daunting, in the end are inevitably very actionable things that can be fixed. I think it's the illusion of this idea that like there's so many issues with the way we build our world and the way it's structured, but in the same amount of time that we've erected those structures, it takes the same amount of time to change them. Being able to recognize that there are very clear, actionable things that can be done to fix these issues. That can happen theoretically in a short amount of time. It's just getting people educated, getting people to care, which is why a school like this is important.